Hello, hello. You are listening to episode 37 of Tide Pod. And today, y'all, you are in for an absolute treat. We are joined by Isabella Silverio, an entrepreneur, leader, and Cuban millonaria. Her passion lies in helping women think entrepreneurially in their career and daily lives. Isabella is a Cuban American and Miami native. She grew up believing anything is possible and has always helped others to do the same. After being involved in over 10 technology global startups, she traveled to Cape Town, South Africa, where she helped disadvantaged entrepreneurs optimize and scale their businesses so they could provide for their families. During these experiences, Isabella learned the true tenacity and spirit of entrepreneurship. She founded Guava Empowerment to create programs, tools, and courses to help women fully embody their CEO. And oh my goodness, my friend, I just gave y'all like the bio, but most of you have probably seen Isabella like rocking it on her corner of Instagram. If you're not familiar with Guava Girl, you're about to be after this episode. Y'all, you are literally in for the biggest treat.
Hi there. Thanks for tuning in to Tide Pod, a podcast crafted by Tiana Tai to help you purify your purpose in business, love, and life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, dog mom, or just getting started, you're bound to find value as Tiana dives into meaningful topics each episode. So, settle in, turn up the volume, and welcome your host, Tiana Tai.
I've got to take just a quick second to ask you for a serious bit of support. Tide Pod would not be possible without your reviews, your comments, and just all of the positive feedback that we've been receiving so far. So if you haven't already, please go on, hit subscribe to make sure you're not missing out on any of this good and free content, and also be sure to leave a review. You may think that I'm not looking at them, but I swear to you, my friend, I read every single review and it just makes my heart so happy. So if you haven't already done so, hit pause, leave a review, and then let's get back to the goodness. So let me stop ranting about you, Isabella. Go ahead and introduce yourself and just tell us what led you to being here today.
I have such an embarrassing smile on my face. I'm like, what? Yeah, it's always very uncomfortable to reflect back your accolades, I guess, or your stories.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see yourself as that important. But I'm very excited to be on Tide Pod, which totally caught my attention. Because Tide Pods are very controversial.
I know, right?
And there's really no place I'd rather be right now in this moment with you, Tiana. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, again, you reflected I wrote that intro. Like, copyright didn't write it, my VA didn't write it. I wrote it, and when I wrote it from this place of, yes, I'm that girl. Yes, I'm her. I did all those things. But it's interesting how in the present moment, that's what matters the most. And my story of stemming from anything is possible, right? This idealism of, if you work hard enough, you can have it and you deserve it. To say I'm 24 years old. So everyone who's ever met me, hi. I'm Isabella Silverio, and I created Guava Empowerment when I was 21 years old. And I created this company after spending a lot of time in the student entrepreneurial space, like the startup culture. And I participated in a lot of startup culture, and I see more and more clearly my entire story being a story of helping women circumvent the uncomfortable pressures that come with running a business on a daily basis. Every single day you're thrown so many fireballs. Every day you're thrown problems, and you wake up, you have 12 problems, and the truth is you can only solve 2 or 3 of them effectively with passion and with integrity. And the lessons I've had to learn to truly embody my CEO and be a leader to my team and to my community are so invaluable in that I'm able to teach them now again on shows like this. So again, thank you for inviting me to your platform, because there are so many misguided directions in running a business ethically and in a way that positively affects every single bystander in your company. So bystanders and stakeholders. Stakeholders are everyone who's affected by your business making decisions. These are people, these are your employees, your customers, the families of your customers, and you only want to create good in this world. But you have to realize that every single decision that you make as a CEO will have a ripple effect, and you will only know what the first ripple might look like, and then it will just kind of perpetuate into so much more. So I have always been very entrepreneurial by nature at a young age. I was the kid who sold candy bars out of their backpack for 25 cents less than the vending machine sold them for. I was the girl who, do you remember when Etsy first became a thing?
Yes.
Like there was eBay. eBay was like Amazon, what Amazon is now.
Oh, it was huge. It was such a big deal.
And then Etsy was like the eBay that was cute, quirky, I identified with. And I was 17 when Etsy started becoming a marketplace for makers, and I'm very creative. Kind of like hide how creative I am online, but I would make bracelets and I would make little rings and I would just like create things. And I was a junior in high school and I made $17,000 on Etsy selling bracelets, and had my grandma, my abuelita, my mom stuffing envelopes with bracelets. And they were just like, how in the world did we leave our country, and my granddaughter is making so much money online, money that I didn't even make in my first 5 years in the United States. So I just had this, I grew up with divorced mother. She worked full time. My grandmother donated so much of her time, but raised me. My father was there as well, but my father was an amazing father. But if you're a child of divorce, you sometimes just lean more towards your mother, and she's the one who really took care of you. She took on that full parenting role. And growing up in that environment, money was just an endless conversation. Like my mom would say, we have money if we have Eddie's ice cream in the fridge versus generic Publix brand or the generic brand. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
And like she told me that, and I was like, okay, I guess I understand how money works. Depending on just like what's in your fridge, you have money or not. So when I understood this concept of money at a very young age and the lack thereof, I just decided very young I was never going to have this problem. So I think by nature, I always created solutions to help me make money. So the candy bars, the Etsy store, startup, entrepreneurial culture, the entire movement behind creating your reality, monetizing off your own expertise. This was all stuff I stand behind, but there's so much more behind those messages that when I first entered this industry, I had no detection of. So when I started my own business, I thought I kind of like hacked this wow, like I know about Instagram and I know about millennial market behavior, and wow, I know I'm the only one who knows how to do this. And then I entered the coaching industry and was shown very quickly that so many people know how to do exactly what I do. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to enter this space because I know what I'm doing. I'm young. Yes, I was 21 when I started my business. I've never had a 9-to-5 job. I participated in startups. I traveled to South Africa, like we mentioned in my bio. I can talk more about that. But I just had this perspective and this approach that I didn't see other coaches really stepping into. And when I entered this industry, I said to myself, I'm not just going to be successful in this industry, but I'm going to be a leader in this space, because I see a lot of things that I see a lot of like noses in the air. I see a lot of people being underrepresented or completely disregarded. And I've seen that since I started, and my entire guava brand literally named my business over this fruit that, not this fruit, I feel like, no, guava, I love you. But I named my entire business to tie back to my Cuban heritage and my culture, because it's the only thing that grounds me right now. It's the only thing that makes me feel safe and makes me feel confident is my culture. And yeah, that's kind of like some of my story. I don't know, but we can go deeper in any of those little rabbit holes that I just mentioned. But it's just wild to be a coach right now, have the eyes, the ears, the constant looking for guidance or answers. And I've just understood now, after 2.5 years of running my business, the power of a platform and the message behind the message and the millions of messages behind that one message. So I'm definitely here to redefine this industry and redefine leadership in this space, because I don't see it. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing enough of it.
Girl, okay. So, first of all, to anybody listening to this episode right now, this is just a disclaimer. There's like a huge thunderstorm in my background right now, but we're going to keep this show going because I already know, like, Isabella, you've got so many thoughts running through my head. This conversation is going to be too good to miss. So, we're rolling with it.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so you talked about like which one of these little rabbit holes could we go down? We could go down so many. You're absolutely right. But one of the things that you said earlier that's really sticking out to me, and it's like on my heart to bring it back into the conversation, is you mentioned this concept of just like those ripple effects, right? So you start a business, you gain some success, you work with clients, you onboard a team, like you're getting bigger and scaling and all of those things. But I really want to tie into that conversation of what are the ripple effects of how you're showing up as a leader, right? So my actual first question for you is, it's on that theme, but I'm taking it back to the beginning. So let's talk about like early on, Isabella, before guava empowerment and guava girl was taking over the world, right? When you were first building your team and like embarking on this process of scaling your business, was that your mindset from the get-go, or is that something that you kind of learned through trial and error, like to take this whole leadership thing seriously?
No, that is early on. I mean, you meet my mother. My mother's just natural born leader, and it's honestly a waste of how her talents, I mean, I was just surrounded by leadership growing up. So I knew what it meant to take responsibility and to wear your heart on your sleeve, which I think is required for leaders to do. But when I first started my business, let me kind of paint the picture for you. I was in college. I was a senior in college. I was studying business. I had already been involved in over a dozen technology, fashion, food service, different startups. Had leadership roles in those startups. Had lower level roles in those startups, and I learned. And I also have been working since I was like 14. You know, I've again, going back to this, I discovered the concept of money. I wanted money and I wanted a lot of it and I wanted to keep it and I wanted to give it. Like nothing was going to stop me from making money. So I've just had a lot of bosses, a lot of leaders to look up to. And I've just kind of been able to have this charcuterie board of what I like and what I don't like. And I just kept everything I like. So when I first started my business, Something I don't like is when employees or when contractors don't take responsibility for things that they were responsible for. Especially when I convey, if you need help, you can come to me. I'm here to support you just as you are here to support me. Or if you get stuck, come to me. Or if you don't know what's happening, come to me. And there was this moment when I first started my business, I was a student and I was actually able to work out of this incubation space, this like startup space for student entrepreneurs at my university. And it was cool because I was able to have meetings and I was able to hire interns. So I was a senior, I already been involved in the business startup space. I knew that there were freshmen who were hungry for experience. And I brought on like 4 interns when I first started my coaching business, because I didn't know I was like really a coach. Like, you know what I mean? I was just doing Instagram audits and like helping my clients organize Facebook events because they were in-person clients. And I was just kind of just helping with social media presence in general. So I didn't really understand that I was a coach yet. I think there's like initiation into like, oh wait, you're a coach. And I remember clear as day, I had to set kind of like an example on one of my interns because they did not complete the assignment and they also never brought the attention to me that they were stuck or that they needed help. And one of my first duties as a leader was kind of like firing her in front of everyone. And it was really upsetting for me to do. And it was really upsetting for her. And looking back, I should have pulled her aside and talked to her privately. And I ended up doing so after the fact. But I definitely, maybe I didn't fire her in front of everyone. Now that I recall it, I just like reamed at her in front of everybody, you know? And I think I needed to do that to like assert my own, like prove to myself that I could do that. And also show the room that this is serious work. I mean, if we're representing clients who are making claims to help with health and wellness, for example, that's serious work. That is people's lives that we're changing. You have to take this seriously. So I don't know if that answers that question, but kind of to cut to like to now, that person still works for me. And
oh, serious?
So it's a crazy story. I fired them. I ended up firing them. I'm like, it's not a good role. So what happened was that the role didn't fit the person. I was trying to fit the role into this person that I really liked and that I loved, and they're a good friend of mine. I was like, I really want you to work for me because I can pay you and I know you need a job, but you're so bad at this job that I gave you. So we let go. We separated for like a month. And then she's been my longest employee so far. She's still on my payroll, and we laugh about that time because neither of us had like no idea what we were doing, basically. But it was wild managing that many interns as a high school senior, taking exams, handling clients, doing this engagement thing, trying to make connections, joining a mastermind, navigating through all of that. But I graduated college with a 6-figure business. The month I walked the stage of my graduation was the month I had my first 10K month, was the month I sold out all 15 spots of my first mastermind. I mean, I really was just so determined of not having a 9-to-5 job you would not even believe. And telling my mom when she came to see me graduate high school, telling her of like, yeah, the grad school thing that I was working on, because I already had like 2/3 of my grad credits done. I was like, I told her, I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's the best use of my time. and I could not believe that she said, yeah, I agree. You're making money. I don't see why you should go to school. School will always be there. And that was one of the confirming, that was so confirming for me as a 21-year-old running a business, making 6 figures. And again, I already did the Etsy store thing. This was after that. This was after the candy bar. So my parents saw in me this person that you can't tell me what to do because I'm going to just end up doing it. Right. I cannot be controlled in that aspect of, I will not live a conveyor belt life. Everything about my life from the time I was born, it's just been anti-conveyor belt. I have a million stories about how anti-conveyor belt I am. But yeah, that's kind of where I was, baby CEO Isabella, firing people and like making people scared. But I think there's nothing that an apology and a sincere apology and growth you can't come back from. So I'm still cordial, friendly with many of the interns. Some of them I lost complete touch with, just being transparent. But it was crazy when I hired them. I was making less than like $2,000 a month, and now I have this 7-figure business. And it's really not. It's always been a team. I've never been by myself. I've never done it myself because I always understood from my experience in startup life that you could not do it yourself. So the first thing I did was have interns and hire people. I hired my second hire was my VA. My third hire was my podcast producer.
Ooh, I feel that in my spirit. Podcast producing, I was like outsourcing it immediately. Hate this.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I hate it.
So, okay. So this is a really good transition point, because I think the listeners, they would probably be really curious just to hear it straight from your mouth, going from baby Isabella CEO to 7-figure business owner CEO, but you've had a team the whole time, right? But what does your team look like now? Like, how big is it? What are the roles? What does it actually look like for you now?
It's really small.
I love it. No, that makes my heart happy. So tell the people how it's possible. Tell us the details.
Okay. I've been through a lot I've had a lot of different team dynamics and structures. And I think that needs to be said because anyone who, I just don't like how there's like expectations of how your team needs to look. So for a while, okay, I don't know. Like I just had a lot of different dynamics. Like for a while we had someone to help with content. For a while we had someone help with Facebook ads. And for a while we had these kind of floating roles, but what really matters in my team are like the integral roles and those day-to-day roles, because those are people who are supporting me every single day. Every single day they think about me. They think about my schedule. They think about my clients. So they're really, and they also are communicating with the other contractors. My team right now looks like Charlene Izier, who is my OBM and has been my OBM for the past year. I had 2 OBMs at one point. And I was shaming myself of having 2 lead roles right under me, because I always thought of the organizational structure needing to be CEO, and then immediately under is like manager, and then immediately under is all these other roles. But that didn't work for me for a really long time, because Nika and Charlene, they're just both like, they're like both of my lungs. Like they're both of my breath and my air every single day. And for a really long time, they both had this like equal role in the business, because Nika is very back-end oriented, very systems and automations oriented, and very much like, I don't really care how it gets done, just like kind of get it done oriented. Like she's just this like amazing catch-all person. Excellent with any integrations, any Zapier whatevers, any those things that I just don't like setting up my audio stuff. We're just, before we started recording, I was having major issues with my microphone, and Victor literally had to come in and help me. I'm just bad at that. But I'm not bad at like websites or technology. I'm just bad at I don't know. Sometimes my relationship with computers is so tumultuous. So Nika's amazing with that. And she's also this incredible data collector. We have all of our data from every single launch we've launched in the last 2 years. So every sales page view, every conversion, every email, we have that all collected. She's this amazing data keeper. And Charlene is my online business manager. And she started with me as a co-coach. That was another role that I really hired, because when you have a coaching business, you hire co-coaches, and they teach your practices and your ideologies to your clients, and it provides them more value, provides you more space. And when I was launching masterminds and group programs and everything, Charlene just had this magical way of marketing herself in this way that was always super authentic, and in this just super understanding of how the industry works overall, that she just made an excellent co-coach. So we brought her on for that role, and then just over time, as we kind of like tinkered with different contractors, I just wanted, me and Charlene just naturally created such a much bigger role for her, that she is my manager. She also has an OBM business called Soulful Systems, and she ended up hiring my brother for Soulful Systems. So my brother works for me, but I don't have to manage him because we're family, and I love my brother, but the less people I have to manage, the better, honestly. And it's just been, I mean, I only work with my friends. Nika is my college friend. She was one of the interns that I talked to you about. We were living in the same dorm room level floor in our freshman year of college. Charlene was a client of mine in my first 3 months of my business when I was selling Instagram audits. So I only work with people that I really, really trust, that I really, really just care so deeply for and want to contribute in any way to their growth. But the dynamic, I mean, we have tons of contractors, and I'm responsible for the relationship with the contractors, because obviously I only want to be seen as professional, cordial, pleasant to work with. But day to day, I mean, it's all Charlene and Nika who are in the support email, who are helping me just conceptualize these really big ideas into launches or into products or into challenges. Because I mean, I don't want to be a coach forever. I will say that I love coaching. I think I'll always be a coach forever, just naturally in the line of work that I'll do. But I just see such a bigger vision in that it really doesn't matter what I sell, as long as I help people. And in that process, I work with people that I love and who mutually benefit working for me. It's very simple. And that's why my team is small, because I don't have that space for that many people.
So this is so random. Do you know what your Enneagram is?
So I thought I knew what it was. And then I had lunch with someone and they were like, no, you're a whatever. And I'm like, it's conversations like this that make me not believe in anything. No, I think I'm a 3. I identify with a 3.
Okay. Very cool. I just felt so much of my own 5 energy. I was just curious. You don't actually present as a 5, but I was just curious because just your prioritization around having a deep, sense of trust with your team, but also keeping that circle small and understanding just about yourself. Not everybody wants a team of 15 or a team of 10. And I think that it was beautiful, first of all, how you described them as the lungs. That gave me chills. I was like, that's such a pretty way of describing people.
I was looking at my ovaries first.
Even better. Either one. Let's just take a pick between the two. You guys should get hats with just oh, no, okay, don't do that. But anyway. I just think it's such an important message that you shared because, people look up to you, especially when they find out you're 24 and a 7-figure business owner and all of those things. And it's yes, and I have great people on my team that I trust, but guys, you don't have to buy into this conception that all teams have to look the same and you have to have a full-time copywriter on your staff or you have to have this person full-time. No, I think everything you just said was so beautiful. It's what feels good to you, the people you consider core to your team you're working with pretty often, and you still maintain good relationships with the other contractors, right?
Exactly. Yes. And because I thought these things too. I bought into this, the bigger your team, the more you can brag. And it's that's so exhausting. It's exhausting because your business, it's so personal. And I know that business isn't personal and there's situations where I believe that and will stand behind that. But with your team, I mean, I spend so much time with we're such good friends. Like we Zoom every day. We talk every day. And just circling back to the good relationships, exactly. You don't have, for example, the copywriter, perfect example. You don't have to have a copywriter on retainer every single month. If you build a relationship with someone and you provide them value as well, you give them referrals, you speak well of them publicly, you accredit them the reason why you had such a great launch because of the emails or whatever. They're going to want to come back to work with you anytime. It can be on your rules or your jurisdiction. I hire people monthly all the time. I don't always hire a Facebook ads manager. I don't always hire a copywriter or any of these roles because one, I also know how to do everything in my business myself. Again, startup culture just made you be a Jane of all trades, I guess, and something I still do. I love Canva. I'm a Canva freak junkie. I'm a Canva hacker. I do all my graphics myself because it's kind of where I like to just indulge in like my perfectionistic tendencies. Like, how good can I do something? But it's things like that where there's no shame in doing things yourself if it doesn't take a toll on your life. And that's CEO embodiment, because there's so much shame, I feel, for online coaches who, like you said, their team may not be big. They're doing things themselves. Maybe they're doing all the coaching still themselves, right? There's no shame in any of that. I don't question where that shame came from. Who planted that shame seed in your brain? Because I know I've had shame seeds planted in my brain and I thought I had to do all these things. And when I really looked at my business and what really worked for me, it looked very, very different from what I saw in the industry.
Yep. I've got to take just a quick second to ask you for a serious bit of support. TiePod would not be possible without your reviews, your comments, and just all of the positive feedback that we've been receiving so far. So if you haven't already, please go on, hit subscribe to make sure you're not missing out on any of this good and free content, and also be sure to leave a review. You may think that I'm not looking at them, but I swear to you, my friend, I read every single review and it just makes my heart so happy. So if you haven't already done so, hit pause, leave a review, and then let's get back to the goodness. And I think that that's okay. And I think that I love the fact that you're open and honest about it and like you're willing to talk about it. Because as you know, like that's a breath of fresh air. I feel like, you know, the A word, the authenticity, that was like such a big thing a while back. And now it's back to like, just be freaking transparent, you guys. And, you know, just tell people like it is, because all the people coming up after us who are just like, ooh, what's this really going to be like when I have a team and when I'm a leader and all of these things? It's good that's why I love having people like you on the show, because it's really good to paint all the different possibilities. You will never hear another person describe their team the way Isabella has been describing hers. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the awesomeness of it. And that's why I love entrepreneurship. It's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. Entrepreneurship, I mean, to its core, it's solving problems. That's all entrepreneurship is. It's solving problems and providing a thoughtful solution to it. And you can choose whether to profit off that solution or not. That's why we have charitable organizations and for-profit businesses. So when you're able to offer a solution, it doesn't really matter how the solution gets delivered, as long as the customer, I mean, we have the happiest customers ever. I'm not trying to brag, but man, it's, I'm so grateful for my community, because you can't buy trust. You can't buy leadership. Those are things you need to earn. And yeah, I mean, authentic, I remember that was a huge, huge buzzword that went around, and I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention to it, honestly, when it was going around so much, because I was struggling a lot with, I was always censoring myself my first year of my business. I mean, and it was hard to see a lot of problematic behavior in this industry. And as someone who's white passing, I've been in a lot of situations where white coaches projected their experience on me, and I have a very different experience. And I'm like, do you know who you're talking to? Like, why would you say that to me? Like, do you understand? And it just makes you question everything about this industry. I mean, the existence included. I love what I do. I think it's a massive privilege that I get to live the life, serve the clients, make the money, pay the money. Everything I do, the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, is a blessing. And I still make a lot of money. And I don't think it's that hard to pay people what they want to be paid, and to give them more on top of that, because most people typically still undervalue themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think like this industry really needs to redefine organizational structures in general. And like, for example, I mean, I'll tell a really quick story. One of my core integral team members is leaving, and it's awesome because they got an amazing job opportunity. Actually, it's in Atlanta. I'll tell you about it later after this show's done. But just an amazing opportunity, and just made me cry because I know how much this person wanted this opportunity for years. I mean, this is the reason why they went to school, the reason why I could only be so happy for them. So just me being in the CEO, I'm like, okay, how am I going to possibly, I can't replace this person because they're so fucking fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
How can I possibly maybe bring on someone else? So Victor, who's my partner, he's been by my side this entire time. And he's very not social media or even computer. He doesn't even know, he didn't even know, just it's different when you're naturally good at systems or computers. You don't have as much of a learning curve to conquer when you go into a new business. And I asked him, because we onboarded him as an employee, and I asked him at dinner, I'm like, so how was your onboarding experience? It was great, right? We all know what we're doing. And he's like, no, this is actually really fucking confusing. It's actually really hard. This is not an entry level position. You need to know things in order to understand what's going on in your business. And I'm like, totally. But it was easy to get it, right? You get it. You know how to use Kajabi. You know how to organize a drive or organize Canva, right? It makes sense. And he's like, it's going to take me time, but I hope I can make sense of it. But again, it's a learning curve, and it's very specialized work that our VAs do and our OBMs do. And I mean, $10 an hour, $12 an hour, it doesn't really seem appropriate when you think about the profit margin. And again, coaching is so profitable just as a service. So when we already see someone who's already being really lean with their team, like me, and is already very profitable, like me, you just need to think about, what are you going to do with your profit margin to help more? Or I don't know, it's so complex. I'm sure you want to just jump in.
Oh my God. So many thoughts, because when you were like $10 or $12 an hour, and let me tell you, because I also will advise very new entrepreneurs, right? Who maybe haven't had a ton of profit, that sort of thing. And I just always one of the things we always talk about is, okay, if you're hiring a VA, and first of all, they're even going to accept $10 to $12 an hour, because that's that's on the low end for this industry these days. I'm just be prepared to mentor and teach them most everything, because what you're doing is you're onboarding someone who is so new to this space that they probably aren't super confident in their skill set, or they may actually not have the full skill set that you're expecting. So if that's what you're doing, I'm just okay, but your onboarding process is going to be insane. And I need you to be okay with that and not make them feel bad for that, because you are the one hiring at $10 to $12 an hour, just saying. And I'm yeah, even with interns, I'm so are we paying these interns, or what's the situation here?
I didn't pay my interns. I pay them in donuts every meeting.
Mm-hmm. And look, and that's it depend it 110% always just depends on the conversation and what they're looking for. Like I know people who, accepted intern positions because they needed someone's mentorship. And that's fine as long as we're upfront and honest about like
Mhm.
what the relationship is. But you said something, girl, and I know we're coming up kind of sort of close to the end of today's chat. So I have got to bring it out. But you mentioned, just like deciding what you as an entrepreneur, perhaps you're even a coach, want to do with your profit margin, especially in relation to these people who are so integral to your business. And I happen to know that you did something really awesome with it in January. So will you tell everybody what I'm like itching to spill the beans on?
Yeah, it totally is. So there's so much more about like my rise in this industry that unfortunately I couldn't get into today. But for example, I was a co-coach for Amanda Bucci
Mm-hmm.
way back when, and it was awesome. I mean, I attribute so much of what I believe about this industry to her, and she's a great mentor. And I was a co-coach for her, and she did this. She would host retreats, and this is something I always wanted to do. This is something I always wanted to have resources to do. And and I'll be honest, I haven't looked at my profit. I don't look at my profit margin. I mean, I do, but I do it once a month with my CFO
Mm-hmm.
because all my CFO needs to look like all she needs to tell me is that you made a profit, and I'll be like, okay, cool, because like as long as I do what I do every day, like again, what I said, the moment I wake up, the moment I go to bed, it's a blessing. So I can be profitable, fucking awesome. And what I did in January is I aligned it really, really carefully, and I scheduled it in that we also, in the same weekend of a mastermind retreat, it's called CEO Mini Mind was the program. We did a retreat in Miami, and I flew my team in early just so we could hang out. I mean, there was definitely a full day of completely restructuring entire systems and how Asana was going to be organized. What's so crazy about leadership and teams and everything? It's like you can have it figured out, and then your OBM will be like, join ClickUp. And I'm like, let's do it, because you're managing everything. And if that's easier for you, fine. Like I'm not attached to Asana, but in that retreat, everything in Asana, everything we're going to launch, we did all of our projections, which by the way, completely went out the freaking window. Like I'm not doing anything how I thought I was going to do in 2020. But what was so amazing about that retreat was just the friendship that was created. Charlene, Nika, and I are just three people who work together so symbiotically, we laugh all the time. It's so refreshing when there's someone that you love someone, and then you love another person, and then those two people meet and they love each other, and you're just like, oh
Mm-hmm.
fucking God, because like I just want, because we all have so much for each other. And we did a retreat in Miami. I wish we would have done longer. Since then, I moved to Orlando. I really want to. I just was talking to Charlene. I'm like, so plane tickets, and I just want to hang out with you. Like, I mean, it's plane tickets are like $200, $300 from. It's really, I mean, what is that? I sell a course, and I half of that can pay for it. It's just, I don't know what the skimming around is around a lot of coaches who just like skim, who are very like dollars and cents, I guess is what I would call it. I think every single time I thought in dollars and cents, it was because there was an idea or notion that was planted in me that I had to think that way. But by nature, I'm not that way. Because I already have money. You know what I mean? I'm good. Like I have money to sustain me through anything. That's such a privilege to have the wealth accumulated. I can literally go to chef school, become a chef, move to France, 3 years later, still not land a French culinary job and still be fine. You know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't risk anything by putting money or throwing money or spending money at, I don't know. Does that make sense? It's just like, it's just not dollars and cents.
Yeah, it definitely does. And what you're like bringing up for me right now, like you mentioned it, like what's a flight, right? So, and I don't know the circumstances of your team to you who's listening right now, but you can start to think through this yourself. Like, where are your core team members located? What's a good location where, we're all kind of meeting in the middle? Like, I've seen people do, and not many people do team retreats, which is why I was so excited to chat about this. But I've seen people do team retreats in all types of just random states in the United States, right? Like we've seen beautiful retreats in the Midwest, by the beach, in the mountains. Like it does not matter. But the point that I think you were communicating so beautifully is just like, I care about these people. I hired people that I trust. I hired people that I care about. And I wanted us to get together and talk business, but also just spend time together, right? I think that's amazing. And it doesn't have to be, guys, she did not say that, they all got first class tickets, went to Bali for 10 days, had a private. She didn't say that, guys. She said they went to Miami. Like, who's doing that? It does not. I mean, if that's what you want to do, like, go for it. More power to you. But that's not what she was saying, guys. So I know that a lot of times, and I have to say this because I know a lot of times, like, people just think, and I can say, someone could look at you and be like, oh, well, you're a 7-figure business owner. Of course you should take your team on a team retreat. But what she just described does not cost $50,000. Okay. Like that's not at all what she just described. So just have to throw in my 2 cents on that.
I can pull up the expense sheet.
Like we can give you guys receipts. It doesn't have to be like that. But tell us about, I think you kind of mentioned it. Tell us a little bit about like the impact and just like how it's felt after the retreat.
I mean, it's just the wildest thing that I don't remember anything other than laughing and having fun. Like with my team, just the 2 of us. I mean, the 3 of us, Nika, Charlene, and I. There's other people on the Guava team. We have Nell, who's a mindset coach. We have Heather, who's been an incredible business coach, supported a ton of my programs. We had Ariane, who's a content marketer for a minute. She was fantastic. So there's other people who were there, but the real roles were there. And the memories I have are just like when we went to Whole Foods and we had to like figure out what everyone, like it was so interesting to like, you like that for breakfast? Like Charlotte picked up a breakfast burrito. And I'm like, I would never, that's not, you know what I mean? It's just like those little things. It's just, it's really putting the human back into your team. The concept of real humanity in your team. Your team is going through loss. Your team is going through trauma. Your team is going through wins and engagements and breakups. And it's one thing to go about that in a Zoom call and just kind of acknowledge it. Like, I'm sorry you're that, or let me know if you're here. We're here for you. And da-da-da. It's one thing to put that on a Zoom call. It's another to experience someone saying how much they love their partner and saying how much that one thing meant to them a long time ago, or just reminisce. It's just adding that human perspective back, and agreed to taking on a protege because I think when you're able to teach someone's, like, I'm a great copywriter, right? If it's a shit, I can write copy, I can create graphics, like I said, in Canva. Like I have skills that can bring me wealth and money for the rest of my life. And I'm not saying my team is so lucky I taught them how to use Kajabi. Like that's such a hard platform to use. But when you're able to take someone in and just give them skills, like you can leverage those skills forever, because this industry, as corrupt as it is, I'm sorry, I don't know if that's your personal opinion, but there's so much going on. As it is very there's so many invaluable skills in just digital marketing. In digital marketing, that's it. It doesn't have to be coaching.
And I love what you just said, and I think it's the most beautiful concept to end on, which is just you bring the humanity back into teams, you bring the humanity back into business in general, and I do think that that's a part of what makes you just like a different type of leader, and that's a part of what makes you really catch people's eyes, right? Because we all know some of the interesting, I'll call it, interesting behaviors that we see in the online space, particularly in the coaching niche. But we don't have to do business that way. And we really can be leaders who care about the humanity of our team. And we can, really empower ourselves and our team members to foster like in-person connection whenever possible. Again, like you just said, a Zoom meeting and telling somebody, oh, I care, so sorry for whatever is one
That's
thing,
such
but being able
bullshit.
yeah,
Sorry.
like, we can't and it's true, and I always say, like, fostering connection via video chat is the best we can do in the online space, but it will never take the place of in-person interaction, which is why we do things like go on business retreats and go to conferences with one another. So if you're investing in yourself in that way, why the heck would you not foster those same opportunities for your team? It doesn't make sense, frankly. Just gonna put that out there. So I'm going to let you have the last word, Isabella, but is there anything that you wish I would have asked or any final thoughts that you wanted to share with the audience today?
Honestly, it's been such a pleasure, Tiana, to just conversation, because like I mentioned before we started recording, I love your insight on leadership, and it's content that, it's my everyday. Every day I'm a leader to my community. And I don't think my audience sees that. And I don't care, because I share content wise. I share what I want to share. I love it. People like it. Every day I'm a leader. Every day I get hit with the question, what do I want my team to do? What do I want to do? How can I even like remove stuff from my team because I've been too reliant on them, and I can sense they need space. Like, I hate it when I really try my best that when I know someone is in, to not give them more.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's just levels of like leadership itself I'm still learning so much. I'm still learning about being a leader. I'm 24 years old, and that thought itself is very unraveling of, I have this like weird like thought when I'm showering of like, Isabella, you're to be here to be like the biggest leader in the world, and you're going to dominate, and you're going to sit behind a big white ivory elephant tusk desk in the middle of New York City skyscraper, and people are going to, like just this like vision of like me being this like central of the universe of my leadership. And it's very like narcissistic, obviously, inscribing it, but there's what I really, really know in my deep soul is that leadership, you have to wear your heart on your sleeve to your audience team. I've cried to my team. I mean, we talked about how close we are. Like, that involves breaking down and vulnerable, and just like removing what do we say in Spanish? Like, in Spanish culture, we say like machismo. Like, there's machismo. Like, when a guy is machismo,
Oh, yeah.
he's like too like dude, like relax. Like, we get it. You're masculine. Like, you don't need to huff and puff and like
Yep.
be so like, it's like toxic male like masculinity in the Hispanic culture. And I see that in in coaching industry of like this machismo coach of like, the machismo coach is the coach who has a big team, or the coach who works 3 hours, 4 hours a day. And it's like, I could totally work 3 hours a day, but being a leader involves me being in all of everything. So I'm constantly in the battlefield. I'm like there. I'm like throwing myself on swords that aren't even mine. And I don't want any medals for that. I just want to be involved in the dynamic of the space, because it is so corrupt in ways that are so invisible and undetected, and there's so much work still left to do. That's where I'll stay. That's what I'll say.
That's a strong stance, and I freaking appreciate you for it. And I love the fact that you're just like, yep, That's where I am right now. So, okay, for all the people who are officially obsessed with Isabella and want to connect with you in all of the places, where can they find you? How can they connect and stay in this conversation with you?
Aw, if you want to know more, talking baby talk. Oh, you like me? You can follow me on at Instagram, Isabella.guava. I also have an incredible membership, high touch. We're in there every single day, helping women embody their CEO, and it's called Guava Gladiator. You can enter the arena and receive that guidance and support. And you can find all that information just on my website, www.isabellasilverio.com.
Beautiful. And y'all, don't even worry about it. Per usual, we're going to have all of those details in the show notes for you. Well, thank you, ma'am. This has been delightful in more ways than one. And just thank you for joining in and like feeding into the community in this way. It was really great.
Thank you so much, Tiana. I really appreciate it again.